Good evening. Thanks everybody for coming out tonight. Very much appreciated taking your time out on a Monday to support the arts. So I know Jake, our visual artist, has some prints that are up over just past the cash register. And after the intermission, Dan will have some CDs over there as well. Please support the artists. If you can't support them financially, let them know how much you enjoyed their performance this evening. And then, horrible handwriting. Afterwards, when the event is over, as many people here that are interested, we go down the street about a block and across Michigan Avenue to JB Bamboozles. It's a pub and grill. Usually there's anywhere from 5 to 12 of us. Sit around, get a drink maybe, get something to eat, but mainly conversation, which, you know, we're talking about an hour and 40 minutes out of the 2 hours here, so there's not a lot of time for conversation and to get to know each other. First up, we have our musician, and that's Dan Menard. And apologies, he is not on the list because he is doing us an extreme favor by coming out tonight, as we lost our musician and visual artist in the last 20 hours. The musician wasn't until about 10 this morning, so I think Dan agreed to do this at about 1 p.m. So thank you very much, Dan. So by that time, I had given up and just put mystery guest, and that's who it is. So I never read bios, but I will read Dan's. Born in England, raised in Detroit, Dan Menard combines different genres of music, including blues, jazz, country, and folk, reprocesses them and spits them back all out with a unique and unmistakable voice and vibe. You see him once and you'll never forget. So you're lucky you're here this evening. You'll never forget. My usual intros are a little more informal, sort of where I became aware of them. And I, in honesty, have no idea when exactly I became aware of Dan. I know I met him sometime in either late 2019 or early 2020 at the Ghost Light. And I don't remember if it was an open mic or Allison Lewis's birthday show. I have no idea. But it was one where I knew of you and had heard your music before actually meeting you, which isn't always the case. So we're going to have Dan come up and do his first of 4 songs.
Hello, good to be here. Let me see. So, I think I'm doing 4 songs tonight, so I'm gonna try and spread it out like stylistically a little bit. Ooh, okay. So the first song will be kind of like a blues thing, because that's part of the description. That may or may not have been written by somebody who looks just like me, I don't know. It's an original. When you're working late at night, do you wonder where I go? When you're working late at night, do you wonder where I go? Are you scared that I'm in trouble, or with somebody that you know? Baby, do you trust me? Do you think I even care? Baby, do you trust me? Do you think I even care? 'Cause I am the selector, and I can be anywhere. So let this be a lesson about everything you're not. Believe me, I ain't worried. I'm good with what I got. I don't hold my breath, no. Not afraid of getting caught. And I guess you're not as special as you thought. I don't need a reason, and I don't need an alibi. No, I don't need a reason, I don't need an alibi. If it hurts you, then it hurts you, and I can always say goodbye. So let that be a lesson about everything you're not. Believe me, I ain't worried. I'm good with what I got. And I don't hold my breath, no. Not afraid of getting caught. I guess you're not as special as you thought. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So let that be a lesson about everything you're not. Believe me, I ain't worried. I'm good with what I got. And I don't hold my breath. Not afraid of getting caught. And I guess you're not as special as you thought. And I guess you're not as special as you thought. Oh, you special, all right. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. That was fantastic. Next up, we have our poet, Saba Kiramati, whose work I first became familiar with back in October last year. I had started to run out of poets and prose writers that I knew and asked Kelsey Ronan at Room Project, which is down in Detroit. It's a fantastic organization. It presents a safe place for females and non-binary writers to work. And yeah, it's an excellent place. They've got a bunch of great readings. Kelsey sent me a list of probably 12 poets. And the third one I got down on the list to, finding stuff online, was Saba's work. I think I read 2 or 3 of her poems, and I think actually about halfway through the first one I was looking forward to the rest that I had found and knew I wanted to ask her to come to this. And fortunately, she said yes.
No? Oh, now it is. Sorry, I thought maybe I'll just be just tall enough for this mic. It seems okay. Thank you so much, Dan, for having me. That was really sweet. And the song we're off to a great start. So I'm really excited to be here. I moved to Dearborn not that long ago, so it's special. This is my first reading in Dearborn, and it's at a comic book store. And when I was in grad school, I actually did research on the similarities between the white space in comic book panels and line and stanza breaks in poetry. So this is just fun for me. It's really, really cool to be here. So I'm going to start off with, I have 6 poems tonight. I recently watched the Sandman adaptation on Netflix, and it was actually my uncle's favorite comic book series. He had all of them, and he was obsessed, and he actually passed away unexpectedly like 4 years ago, so it was like really moving for me. So I wrote this first poem really, really recently, so please be gentle with me, and then I will move to the polished, published material. This first one is called Offerings to Hecate. To the crone, I give my hair, most prized possession of my youth. I ask for nothing but hindsight, that clarity of age. So too, I'll take your stretched skin, thin as paper, thin as the veil between this life and the next. Let me see the shadows of those I've lost and be unsurprised by unexpected death. To the mother, I give my womb, untouched and selfish, body still mine, dreams for myself still intact, a future that depends on no one else. A mother brings life and loses her own, so here, a belly not barren but still unused. You may have the possibilities of my future if you take back my shame. To the maiden, I release you from the burdens of girlhood, the expectations of beauty. I make magic in the moonlight under doorways like you taught me, a dying ember from a torch, the shedded skin of a snake, key to my childhood home, the howl of a dog and a restless soul. I bring it all with the scattered sand of dreams to your crossroads. All I ask is that you rid me of nightmares. A raven sits in a yew tree, some omen of mortality. When it flies into the night, the glow of its eye lingers, shines like a star. Oh my God. I was more nervous for that one than I thought, so thank you. This next one I'm going to read, it was just published recently. It was published at Poetry Online, which is actually a lit mag run by Tarek Dobbs, who's a Dearborn native, and they're actually a finalist for a huge poetry contest right now, so good vibes to them wherever they are tonight. This one is called Self-Portrait Without Plans or Prayers. Oh, this is a pandemic poem, by the way. In the mornings, I uncouple the curtains, let the natural sunlight in, save some money for the electricity bill. When I retreat to the living room where the piano remains untouched and dusty, I lose track of myself. Time feels unnecessary. The next time I pay attention, it is dark. I let the curtains kiss again. The light from inside the house reveals too much, exposes me in sweaty polka dot pajamas to neighbors who might be passing by. The fears I keep hidden, be seen or be seer. What future? Nothing has changed for a long time. When I turn my head, a shadow. The faint dancing of tree branches, a crack in this curtained universe. I watch the wind on the wall, the light quivering of the outside world. Every moment becomes more chilling, the night seeping its way through my home's cheap insulation. I'm not keeping track, but time makes its way into my brain, and everything with it, passing. Thank you. This next poem, I lived in Michigan for about 4 years before I heard the name Vincent Chin. And for those of you who don't know, he was a Chinese-American man who was murdered by just people who were angry about the switch in the auto industry to Japanese-American cars. And when I learned about him, my mother's Chinese, so when I first learned about him, I was very surprised that I had never heard his name before, and I wrote this poem. And it's called Those Who Live. I've come to where he is buried, looking for answers. I am ashamed of what I did not know. Once, I made it to the front gate of the cemetery. A funeral procession of Fords with American flags stopped me. A baseball bat flashed through my mind. It's the anniversary of his death again. Today is the first time I've made it this far. Usually, I stop driving at the red post marking what's left of Detroit Chinatown. Or should I say, the red post that is all that's left of Detroit Chinatown. The years pass so quickly. I've lived a short distance away for so many of them now. His ghost always with me, but unnamed for so long. I had to Google the mural in memoriam across from the new dog hotel and tattoo parlor. There's a phrase I've heard for years now, steel, not chopsticks. The suggestion being one is stronger than the other. But did you know he was an orphan? I call my mother and ask if she's ever heard his name. She says no. I keep looking. The headstones grow blurry before my eyes. Strange how the graves of the murdered are so hard to find. Thank you. I have another Michigan poem. It's about a trip I took to Tequamanon Falls with my partner. It's called Myth. Up ahead, a hand-painted sign for roadside cherries. The sea, a dripping moon, the drip smudged by a farmer's elbow and left to dry. We stop at a small oasis, a lush summer garden where an old woman leans on a board. Sweetest cherries in the state, she calls, her voice rested with times, her hands wrinkled. How do you know, you ask? She gives one to me, and her fingers are silken from wet soil. Well, I grew 'em, you see. We buy 10 handfuls worth. By the time we cross the bridge to the Upper Peninsula, they're gone. There's just me and you, and a story. There are 94 steps to the tops of the waterfall, and we take them all. The water runs a shining copper color, like something out of a poem. It's the minerals, you say, but today I'm not so concerned with science. I dig a small hole in the earth by our feet, pluck a cherry pit from my pocket. When it's planted, we stare at the overturned dirt. What are we waiting for, you ask? Just waiting, I say. We sway in the wind. Nothing sprouts. Nothing stops. Still a story. Thank you. Okay, I have 2 more. They're fun, though. These ones are fun. This one is called There's an Iranian Drag Queen on RuPaul's Drag Race. Her name in Farsi, emblazoned in sequins across her fake tits. Oh, to rest my head, in between that script I know so well, to feel the soft padding of the breasts I've always wanted. I am ready to call her mother. Let the breath of the soft last syllable drift up into the depths of her wig. At dance practice, she wears a t-shirt that says daddy, but in Farsi. And the Iranian queerness of it all lifts me straight up to heaven where all my gay ancestors are waiting for me in a rosewater bath. They anoint me, and I'm ready to take the crown. It's me and Jackie against the judges. I show her off, icon that she is. Look at her perfectly contoured face, a snatched waist, a peak, just a peak, of makeup under her beard. Oh, to be womanly, only when necessary. Oh, to be a dragonfly, so thin and shimmering, flitting about a garden, slender legs, the weight of them so light. Even a daisy does not waver. And there she is, in high heels, beckoning through a TV screen. I am ready to put one foot directly in front of the other and stomp down the runway. When I reach the end, I'll jump, certain I can fly, with Jackie's glittering wings to guide me. Thanks, all. Okay. One more. This is, does anyone here know the song Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel? Oldie? Okay, great. Okay, y'all know it. So this next one, the title leads straight into the poem, so I'm just going to go for it. Harry Styles covers Sledgehammer, and suddenly I'm pregnant. Never mind that I don't want children. Suddenly, there's a world I'm willing to bring a child into, where the boys wear pearls and the girls don't mind, and those who don't answer to gender rule the world. Harry Styles says he will be my honeybee. And how did you know I love honey, Harry? When the child is born, there will be more bees, more flowers, more of the earth to protect, and we'll cherish it like we're supposed to. There will be no more golf courses. This is the new stuff. It's glorious in its simplicity. Isn't it sad, Harry, that all I want is that? Tomorrow, I'll remember the future isn't simple. There are more to my plans than want. And I really love babies. I saw one on an airplane once, and I swear it looked out the window like it knew we were flying. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Saba. That was fantastic. I will say there's 5 or 6 of us that appreciate you referring to Sledgehammer as an oldie. Next up, we have our visual artist, and we're going to take a couple of seconds to set up, I think, once I get the hell out of the way. So our visual artist is Jake Spees. Is it Spees? I've never asked you. Spees. Yeah, this is where the editing comes in, is when I'm up here. Again, you see why now. So I'm not positive when I met Jake, although I think it was probably June 19th, 2021. He's a co-owner of 27th Letter Books, which is just down the street on Michigan Avenue at 24th Street. It is by far my favorite store in the world. Well, tied with this one. And they opened on the 12th, and I know I was unable to make it to the opening, but based on history from that day forward, I'm assuming I made it into the next Saturday since. About 98% of the Saturdays since then, I have spent some time in the store. So we're going to bring Jake up. We're going to set up some of his art and let him talk about it and explain it.
All right. Thanks everyone for coming out. Thanks for having me, Dan. The timing actually worked out pretty good because initially I was supposed to be in November, and I actually have a show coming up at the bookstore next month. So this kind of works as a preview. I'm going to start with a little bit of history to kind of tie things in. And that's So my preferred art genre is surrealism. Surrealism started in the shortly after World War One, really because of two things: psychoanalysis and Sigmund Freud coming to the forefront, and also it was a large revolt against kind of what the surrealists felt was the logic that had gotten us into this giant world war, which many of them participated in. And among the initial group, or the initial French group of surrealists, was a man named Antonin Artaud. And Antonin Artaud, some people here may be familiar with him. He's not really a household name, but participated in theater and really is remembered as a theorist. And he came up with this concept called the theater of cruelty, which took the idea that up till that point, Western theater had been largely for entertainment, for escapism, and he said, no, the theater should be a place, like all high art forms, a place where people are challenged, where people have to think about things and they're confronted with these issues. And so a lot of his work is very focused on taboo and like breaking the sacred. He also was pretty mentally ill. Official diagnosis isn't not really known, but he spent, I believe, the last 10 or 15 years of his life in asylums of one form or another. And so for me, there's this connection that holds up between surrealism and mental illness. And there's other places where it connects as well. There's a wonderful book called The Gallery of Miracles and Madness, which explores Hans Prinzhorn's work. He started as a psychiatrist, and then for a while, the drawings, particularly of schizophrenics, were used as a diagnostic tool. He realized, hey, these people are actually really talented. Just as artists, we shouldn't be using it solely as diagnostic. And it becomes interwoven into the art world and also Hitler's policies around art and who was valuable. So fast forward like 80 years to when I'm born and start making art. I really started making art in late middle school, early high school, and it became a way for me initially to cope with being mentally ill, and a way to express that to people without words are not my forte. I'm much better with pictures, which is why I'm a visual artist, not a writer. But it allowed this idea, this combination of kind of combining different elements that I was feeling in my life and feeling within me, and I could combine them in a way that's kind of chaotic, because my experience with mental illness has been that it's been very chaotic, sometimes in good ways, sometimes not so good ways, and a lot of times the not so good ways have ended up on canvases. And so this particular series, all of them have the background of prescription guides for medication. All of them are mine. That just over the years kind of holding on, and it allowed to create kind of a textured background for me, and add that element, a more explicit reference to mental illness, and then on top, it's a variety of two-dimensional mediums, whether it's graphite, whether it's pastel. There's some that's ink, There's this one here at the end. I work at a machine shop and grinding, and so I tried to use the steel powder and combine it with color to use as a medium. Charcoal, all varieties of stuff. And generally speaking, I've tried to have imagery that's recognizable but not super explicit. There's a fair amount of pills in the work, because there's been a fair amount of pills in my life. And there's also a lot of dismembered anatomy. Just for me, I've spent a large portion of my life not feeling very whole. And so having that breaking, having that just kind of disjointed nature in the work. There's also, a lot of it is trying to figure out how to explain what's going on up here, which isn't always easy. And some of it also is ways of coming to terms with some of the mistakes that I've made. I don't know how I'm doing on time, by the way. A big part of this series was that it kind of has been going as early in COVID, like many people, I didn't do a great job of handling it. There was a pretty heavy rise in the level of alcohol I was intaking, as well as at the time I was on Klonopin. And I've gone through periods of different things like that in my life, and so a lot of these are, in a way, kind of like exorcisms for me, to be able to get that stuff out. And in the end, I don't think it's the prettiest art, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that, because to bring it back to where I started, I think it's really valuable that art not just be for escapism, that it asks us to confront our own beliefs, our own thoughts, and really challenges the assumptions we have, and also allows us a kind of honesty that we don't necessarily have the rest of the time. And so that's kind of my spiel.
Okay, so did I hear you say that you weren't good with like talking or something? Because that's about as eloquent as I've ever heard. Oh, thank you. Gosh, now I gotta do a song with a bunch of words just to keep up. No, it's I really like coming here. You know, talk about like medication or things like that, but you know, coming here really helps, you know, to kind of get me outside of my own little thing and remember that there are other really valuable artists and people and points of view. And I wasn't expecting that the first time I came. And the first time I came here, I really needed to come. Like, I just needed to get out of a situation that wasn't working. And I'm just like, okay, I'm going to brain candy it and see what happens, you know. And I showed up, and I'm just like, I was just immediately comforted, but I was also immediately sort of drawn into what, you know, the artists were doing and stuff like that. And I was able escape into it like that. And I like the fact that you said it doesn't always have to be like pretty or appealing. Sometimes it's good to confront that kind of stuff. So it's just thoughts of points of view like that I really value coming here. It makes me feel really intelligent too to hang out here. I feel like I should say like, oh yeah, I'll get you. Okay. So anyway, so this is a song I always kind of introduce it as a song with one verse and no chorus. So I'll see you at the end of it. Flurry in the streets, panic on the rise. Another way to get you when they catch you by surprise. Barrels and the shotgun as they're getting out the lead. They'll hang you without evidence for anything you said. With bloody hands of sympathy, you can wipe it on your blouse. It doesn't matter what you gamble, you'll always owe the house. Shaving off democracy, you can wash it down the sink. Trying to use that infrared to find the missing link. Cattle calls and free-for-alls to make you double down. There's bullets whizzing everywhere, you best stay on the ground. And if you're not aware of why we've all become afraid, well, we sat there and we took it, lying on the bed we made. Someone with a top hat singing, isn't that a shame? While hip-hop screaming, bro, don't hate the player, hate the game. No one wants to discipline these kids out of neglect, cause that's hard to do, but none of them are giving you respect. And if you want to know how I survived, just write me out a check. And when you write my name, make sure you're spelling it correct. Looking for the secrets that lay hidden in the vault. I read a self-help book that told me none of it's my fault. I asked her for a milkshake, but she handed me a malt. So I tried to be assertive, now they're calling it assault. If you don't like the things I say, then you can hit eject. But I'm no dope, so I won't wrap that rope around my neck. Trying to make some sense of what is flashing in my mind. But everybody's yelling that I'm running out of time. Yet no one wants to tell me what is coming down the line. But I've been warned that they believe that I'll commit the crime. And I don't know who's joking or if someone saw a sign. I just want someone I trust to tell me everything is fine. Rushing to the airport, I'm escaping on a plane. And the world's becoming full of folks who want to do the same. But I've been cooped up in this place, I sure could use a trip. And I see some dual citizens, and they're sailing on a ship. But me and my technology are joined right at the hip. And if you can help me ditch all that, I'm leaving you a tip. Now I don't know who started it, and I can't tell you when. But those people you've been trusting, they've been lying to you again. Now you can exercise your options if you wanna phone a friend, cause it's harder to distinguish who the lawyers should defend. But if you want some free advice before we reach the end, then I just say that you and I get rid of all of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, for another excellent song, and thank you very much, Jake. That was fantastic. Absolutely incredible. We are going to take, let's say, a 12-minute intermission. When Rocky and Bullwinkle up here say 5 minutes to 8, come on back. Jake does have some prints over here of his work just past the cash register. I believe Dan is going to run out to his car and bring in some CDs. Beyond that, let Saba know how you enjoyed her work. I think that's it. If you are an artist and you're here for the first time, and I don't know who you are, if you didn't know who I was before tonight, then chances are I'm not aware of your work. If you would be at all interested in participating in one of these in the future, track me down in the intermission. I'm usually the one standing away from everyone. But yeah, otherwise, if you're like me and you don't talk to people, one of the little programs on the seat has my email address, and that works just as well. I will say we are currently booked out about 16 months for all 4 categories and 24 months for visual artists and poets. But if you wait, it's just going to keep getting further and further because I have a bad habit of saying yes and asking people whose work I like. Okay, intermission. Thank you very much. Do his 3rd song now, and then we're going to have a prose experiment for the evening, and we'll introduce that after Dan's song.
Check. So I'm going to do kind of like a little moody song, kind of like a more contemplative song. I feel okay. So let's see. Is that right? Okay. See you stretched out in the clothes that you don't want to wear, and your mind won't slow down. There's too much going on out there. Finding you is the last thing you need right now. A time and place, but not in a space that sound. No, not now. If the world slowed down enough for you to get off the ride, is it worth it to get out of bed and to walk outside? It's hard to get a lay of the land when you don't know how. You know that place you would if you could, and you know how, but not now. can see you stretched out in the clothes that you don't want to wear. And your mind won't slow down, there's too much going on out there. And finding you is the last thing you need right now. A time and place, but not in a space that sound. No. If you wake up one day in the beautiful morning sun, thank you guys.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that you're doing the brain candy route with each song being a totally different genre. So we have prose next. And in the past, we decided we didn't want to delineate between fiction and nonfiction and have had people read novel excerpts. We've had people read short stories, essays, parts of memoirs. Today we're stretching it a little bit. A good friend of mine wrote a play. It's a two-person play, mostly dialogue. So we're going to have a couple of local actors come up and do read-through performances for about the first 15 to 20 minutes of the play. So the play was written by Stephen Gillis, who I met back in early February 2005. He had noticed online an interview that I had done with an author, done some research, found out that I lived in Westland, he lived in Ann Arbor. Next time I'm in town, let's have lunch. That turned into a very close friendship that actually co-founded an indie publishing house that's still thriving today, known as Dizank Books, although neither one of us is very involved anymore. We're both still involved, just not like the first 7 years where that was all we did with our lives. And I can say without any qualms of being wrong that Steve is one of the best people that I have met. He funded Dizank. He funded 826 Michigan prior to that. He spends mornings skimming through the New York Times looking for stories of people that might need a little help and then offers the help. He's also a wonderful writer. The bio says exactly what he has: 6 novels and 2 story collections. And now a play that I believe somewhere at U of M is working on doing a production of it, perhaps. The actors that we have, Ashley Wickett Lane, middle name might sound familiar. So I've known her. I should have asked when your birthday was, because I've known her since she was born. She's much younger than I am, so we were informed upon the birth. Patrick Lane is the other actor, and you'll notice a similar last name with the actors. So I probably met Patrick somewhere around the engagement. I'm not positive, but I'm guessing it was in that area. So they're going to come up, and let me give a quick sort of stage scenery for you to imagine. The play is called There's Something I Want to Tell You About Fetterman. Again, it's by Stephen Gillis. So what you need to imagine is a split stage. And this is right for me. It's going to be wrong for you guys. To the right is a bedroom. There's a window on the right side wall of the bedroom. The window overlooks the street below. The apartment's in a high-rise on an undesignated floor in an undesignated city. By the light from the window, you can see that it's morning. A woman is in the bedroom. She's wearing pajama bottoms and a sleeveless white t-shirt in which she has slept. She's in her early 30s. On the left side of the stage is a hallway. There's a door right in between. The door to the bedroom is locked. There's a man in the hall locked out from the bedroom. He's also in his early 30s. His hair uncombed as he appears to have just gotten out of bed. He's standing in front of the door and about to try the handle.
Hi.
favorite cousin. We have a lot of cousins in the Wickets, but right, I know. Yeah, so our cousin JP will want to know who is the favorite. Really nice to be here. It's our first time doing this here, and sort of funny. We in grad school we did a play by Artaud. We did Hotel Paradiso. So when you mentioned that, it brought back memories.
I played a young man who fell in love with his French maid, who was played by a man.
Yes.
And she was a demonic Pippi Longstocking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So theater of cruelty. Yes. All right, should we give it a go? So this is just going to be a staged reading, obviously. We have the script in front of us, but we will do our best to...
Just keep in mind there is a door closed between us.
Yes.
What are you doing?
What am I doing?
What are you doing?
What am I doing?
You've locked the door.
I have. The door is locked.
But why have you locked the door?
I've locked the door so you can't get in.
I did not expect...
When you left.
I only went to clear my head.
And now here you are.
Here I am. Yes, I am here. But can you let me in?
It doesn't seem, under the circumstances, a prudent thing to do.
And yet here I am.
You are here, yes.
In my underwear, no less.
Less would be too much.
Can you please?
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
But how am I? But I'm locked in the hall.
It's true, you are.
Could you explain?
I could.
Does that mean...
If you like.
I would like.
Once upon a time...
Perhaps not that far back.
But I can't possibly explain if you insist I jump in at some random point. Whatever I might tell you requires evidentiary support.
Only we're not in a court of law now, counselor.
All the same.
Be that as it may.
It may be, yes.
I'd rather you let me in.
I don't think so, no.
Can you tell me why?
I can. Once upon a time...
No.
You want to know why you're here?
I do.
Epistemologically, ontologically, existentially.
Just why? Here in the moment.
You were obviously somewhere else before this.
Before this, yes, I was somewhere else. I was with you, and then I wound up in the hall. Now let me see if I can remember. Do you remember?
Do I remember?
Do you remember how we got here?
I remember waking to find you in the hall.
And you went and locked the door.
I locked the door after you went into the hall.
Then you remember.
I remember what happened.
So you understand?
I didn't say I understood. I said I remember.
Well, what do you remember then?
You're asking me for an example?
An example of what you remember, yes.
I remember driving with you last fall out to West Eden before the storm. We beat the rain, as I recall. The air was filled with the most extraordinary smell of portent. We stayed the night at the Come On Inn. You had never slept on eiderdown before, you said. We clung to one another beneath the comforter, and the warmth of the wind outside rattled the pane of the glass protecting us. I remember we walked the next morning out along the bluff, and the water below was silver.
As far as the eye could see.
You remember?
As you reminded me, I remember.
I remember top to bottom, or perhaps it's bottom to top. It depends on the day.
And now you've locked the door.
I have locked the door.
Can you tell me why you locked the door?
But didn't I just tell you? By asking again, do you expect a different answer?
I did not expect you to lock the door. It didn't occur to me that you would. If I thought you might lock the door, I would not have gone into the hall.
It's possible you may think now that you did not expect me to lock the door. If this is how you choose to remember after what happened, if it makes you feel better.
All of it is water under the bridge, or over the dam, whichever way the water flows. Whether or not I expected you to lock the door, the fact remains...
Objection!
What now?
The jury will ignore the statement.
But I haven't.
Request to have the witness claim stricken from the records.
But I simply said...
The facts have not been determined. You cannot claim the fact remains without providing proof. Although the facts do remain, regardless of how we remember them, you can't assert your claims over all others without sufficient evidence.
The point is, I did not go into the hall of my own volition. Whether or not I expected you to lock the door, the fact is, I went into the hall under some duress after what happened. I wasn't feeling well before, you know? I wasn't quite up to snuff. Things were starting to get the best of me.
Things?
You know. And now, here I am. I'm here in the hall, and that is a fact. And as I am here, I would like to think you could unlock the door. Can you please? Can you let me in?
I won't let you in. No.
What about now?
What about now?
Have you thought about it more?
I have, and the answer is still no.
This is not what I imagined. This isn't what I meant to happen.
When you went into the hall.
Right.
And what is this?
What is this?
What is this? You said this. This isn't what you meant to happen. What is this?
This. This.
Well, this covers a lot of ground.
This very moment.
And what about yesterday?
What about yesterday?
Was yesterday what you meant to happen?
But I'm not talking about yesterday.
Well, shouldn't we talk about yesterday if you insist upon talking about this? Shouldn't we be discussing what happened?
Yes. We should discuss. We didn't get a chance before, after what happened.
After what happened, you didn't want to talk.
I was not of the right mind. There were extenuating circumstances, as I remember. I was not feeling well before.
You were agitated. You were sullen. We should talk about what we remember.
But must we talk through a door?
I can hear you just fine.
But I can't see your face.
You need to see my face?
I need to see your face. Yes, if we're going to talk, I must see you.
If you listen closely, you can see my face. Let's forget all about this and sing.
But I don't want to sing.
Remember when we used to sing?
We didn't sing with any frequency, as I remember.
Now and then, you're right, but when we sang...
When we sang, yes.
Ooh, baby, I love your way.
All right.
Every day. And then we're moving. It's good to remember.
I remember everything. I remember quite well.
But of course you do. What you remember is what you remember, and you could not very well remember something you did not remember. Do you remember the night we sat on the couch and read our books?
Yes, that was a nice night.
Oh, and what about the night we sat on the couch and read our books?
That night, too. And the night we sat on the couch and read our books.
Oh, and what about the night we ate dinner at the table?
At the table, yes. And the night we ate dinner at the table.
Of course, and the night we
ate dinner at the table.
Oh, those were good times.
Good times, I remember.
It's good to remember. I'm glad you're here.
What's that?
Now that you're here, I'm glad.
Darling.
Don't.
But you just
I
said...
said I'm glad you're here. It gives us a chance to talk.
Well, yes, let's talk. If you're done singing, let me in so we can talk.
But I won't let you in. I prefer you stay in the hall. I think what we have to talk about is best discussed through a door.
And what sort of things are the things which are best discussed through a door?
Tell me the color of your hair.
My hair?
Is it still brown? Are there flecks of gray?
But you must remember.
Must I?
I haven't been gone that long.
Not long at all.
It's true. I only left to clear my head.
Your eyes, as I recall, are green. But tell me, do you still open them wide when surprised, or do you squint now when startled?
I am who I was when you last saw me.
Of course you are. Of course you are. Tell me then. Tell me everything you remember.
Where would you like me to begin?
Begin at the beginning. Begin where things start to connect.
Once upon a time.
Yes, see? It's not so easy to remember without going back.
I remember you out on the water, on the lake. Not so very long ago now, you were swimming and I was on the shore.
This was the day...
Yes? Though I didn't know it then. Or maybe I did.
Now you're jumping ahead.
I am jumping.
Tell me first what you remember.
Let me see. I remember watching you sleep. After we got home, after what happened, I had rolled over and there you were, in the earliest light. I watched you for a moment and then Suddenly I was leaping up. I had to leap.
You had to?
Leap.
And why did you have to leap?
You need to understand.
What is it I need to understand?
I didn't want to leap. Despite everything that happened, I didn't handle it well, I admit. I remember seeing you there. Remember your mouth opened ever slightly as you breathed, your breasts and your ribs rising and settling. I remember feeling an overwhelming sense of...
What?
It was a feeling. I can tell you that. The feeling overwhelmed me. It confused me. I needed a moment to clear my head.
And so you went out into the hall.
I thought I would just be a moment, but you locked the door. I only meant to be gone for a moment. I never meant to stay away.
You lost track of time.
Yes, that's it. That's it. I lost track of time.
Time is an easy thing to lose track of.
Isn't it, though?
1 minute and we have all the time in the world, and the next,
The next minute,
poof,
it's true.
in the blink of an eye.
Snap of a finger.
Just like that.
Like that, for sure.
It's hard to know what to think.
I didn't think you'd lock the door.
We've established that. Your statement has been entered into the record.
Let the record reflect.
As the record shows.
A record of what we remember.
It's important what we remember is not simply what we want to remember. Though what we want to remember is mostly what we remember when we set out to review. Last week, I deposed a man who swore he remembered everything exactly as it happened. We were unraveling a merger. A suit had been filed. The man I deposed had taken offense to something my client supposedly said, some such thing in passing, and now one man wanted to undo the deal, was no longer satisfied with the terms of the acquisition. The man I deposed was quite large. He wore a low-button suit and had an ancient face, like Jagger. He remembered something my client said, swore that he remembered, and wanted to call off the deal. Something may or may not have been said, some silly thing that really had very little to do with the business at hand, the business of putting the merger together. And now the man wanted to unravel the deal because of something one remembered and one did not.
What was said?
What?
What was said between the two that caused the one man to call off the deal?
But it doesn't matter. What was said isn't the point. The man swore he remembered it all correctly, even though my client remembered differently. And there we were, responding in real time over a very real conference table, in a very real room for very real stakes, reacting to claims that one man said he remembered and the other didn't. Tell me more of what you remember.
I remember the day we met.
Do you?
We met on a Tuesday. As I remember, you were standing outside the stable grill with Evans as I walked by. There was a sign in the window for Tuesday specials. Evans introduced us. You were wearing a long brown coat,
Was I?
as I recall.
But I don't think I ever owned a long brown coat.
It's what you're wearing when I remember, when I think about the day we met.
That may be, but I don't remember owning a brown coat,
But I remember you wearing a brown coat.
which may or may not be correct.
How can it not be correct if that's what I remember?
What else do you remember?
I remember the first time we slept together. We had come from a play.
Had we?
Yes?
But I don't generally like plays.
A movie then.
But was it a play?
Yes! It was Shepard's Fool for Love. If you prefer, though, I can say it was a movie if you'd rather remember it that way.
If it was a play, we can't change it if this is what you remember.
I do remember.
And this was...
Our third date.
And was I wearing the brown coat the night we went to the play, the first time we slept together?
I don't recall.
When you think of that night.
I don't see you in a coat at all, though I can put you in the coat if you'd like.
I don't know. I'd prefer it if you didn't. If you can't remember, it's best to leave it alone.
I remember us walking after the show.
Fool for love?
Yes. You told me you had dated a cowboy once.
We were on 53rd Street.
You remember now?
I remember walking. You told me you were an only child with 2 brothers and a sister.
You thought that was funny.
It is funny. Though it may not have been the night we first slept together. It may have been a different night you said that.
Possibly, yes.
As I recall, I invited you up
We drank tea.
in the kitchen,
You said I reminded you of someone, though you couldn't remember who.
and then I came and kissed you.
Is that what happened?
As I remember, you were earnest.
Was I?
You took it all quite seriously.
I was fond of you.
You were nervous.
I think I did all right.
And now here you are.
Here I am, yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
It's too early to tell. How are you?
I'm locked out in the hall.
I know. I locked the door. You were gone when I woke. I've been thinking.
Have you?
About what happened.
What happened, yes. I should apologize.
You should?
Apologize for disappearing the way I did.
But that's not what I was thinking. I think you should know. I want you to know.
It's important to be accountable.
Which is what I've been thinking.
You've been thinking since I've been gone?
That's right.
But I've only been gone a short while.
A matter of seconds.
A handful of minutes.
At most.
No time, really.
Nonetheless, the length of time is irrelevant.
The time in which you've been thinking, but did you have time to think?
Time is not the issue. There are physicists who now say that time does not even exist. Sam Barron and others, string theory and quantum gravity. Plenty of things happen in an instant.
Name two.
Car wrecks and diarrhea.
Okay. But moments still exist, even if time doesn't. The seconds I've been gone.
Minutes and minutes.
Right.
Hours and hours. Days and days. Years and years.
It feels that way, I know. It feels I've been gone forever.
I've been thinking.
So you said?
Certain things must be taken into consideration.
I am all for consideration.
Consideration must be given to what happened, to what has happened.
Since I went into the hall?
Since I woke and locked the door.
And you've been thinking?
I have been thinking.
Will you let me in first? Can you let me in so we can discuss what you've been thinking?
I don't think so, no.
No?
I don't feel I should.
Feel now. Which is it?
Which is what?
Do you think you shouldn't let me in or feel you shouldn't let me in? They're not the same, you know.
I never said they were.
Because they're not.
I feel I shouldn't let you in. I have thought about it and reached that conclusion. My feelings are correct. Sometimes what we feel and what we think are two different beasts, I admit. But in this instance, on letting you in, what I think and how I feel are in sync.
And the fact that I am asking?
Has been taken under advisement.
If it pleases the court, I would like to file an appeal.
You have the right to file an appeal.
If you'd be so kind as to let me in.
Judgment against improper filing. That's unfair.
What's unfair?
Equating my not letting you in with being unkind?
But I didn't.
You said...
I know what I said. You're overthinking.
Did you just say...
Well, I didn't mean
Then
it.
why say it? Why say it if you didn't mean it?
I meant to say...
Then you should say...
I simply said...
I'm not going to let you in just because you ask.
I would hope my asking would be enough.
Hope now.
Hope, right.
Hope Springs.
Hope for.
Bob Hope.
Abandon
Live
hope.
in hope.
Hope against hope.
I hope you're happy.
I would be if you unlocked the door.
Well, then, by all means, I must open the door.
Oh, you're being sarcastic now.
Am I?
I think you are. Feels that way.
Hello?
What's that?
Someone was knocking.
Knocking on this door?
Yes.
But that was me.
Well, you can knock all you want. I am not going to let you in.
What were you saying then?
What was I saying when?
When you said you wanted to talk, that you'd been thinking.
But didn't I tell you?
No. We were distracted.
It happens.
Things get lost.
Blown off course.
Off course.
We started one way and wound up heading in another direction.
Assuming there are directions.
Road maps.
Of any kind.
Ask me again.
But I can't remember the question.
If you can't remember the question, what good will the answer do?
I didn't expect you to lock the door. You weren't supposed to lock me out.
But what does that mean, supposed to? Are there rules? Is there a book of rules I should have read before you went out into the hall?
There are always rules. You should know that as a barrister. As an officer of the court, we agreed.
Did we? I don't recall.
We agreed early on.
Agreed to what exactly?
We agreed to be...
What?
You know.
This was before you went into the hall.
Which I regret.
You only regret it because I locked the door. If I hadn't locked the door, you would have been completely lost.
What if I told you the reason I went into the hall?
If you told me...
Would you let me in then?
Are we negotiating?
We are.
And you filed the right papers.
The papers?
To negotiate. If we're to negotiate, you'll need to file your papers.
Perhaps we can do things less formally?
That's how deals break down when you don't have what you need to refer to. Then we get lackadaisical about procedure.
I want to tell you, that's all.
You want to tell me, and in return, I'm supposed to let you in. But what if I listen and I say no?
After you hear, I think you'll want to to let me in.
And you feel confident enough to do this without filing your papers?
Off the record, just between you and me.
Well, tell me then.
I want to tell you.
Go ahead.
What I have to tell you is the truth.
The truth.
The truth.
The truth.
The truth.
What is the truth?
What is the truth?
The truth.
I will tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
So help you?
Finnegan.
So help you, Finnegan.
Yes, ask me again.
Why did you get up and go into the hall?
I haven't the faintest idea.
Well, there it is then. Thank you for testifying.
But it's true.
And this is what you wanted to tell me.
It's a start.
But you haven't said anything.
I can explain.
Go ahead.
I can't explain.
Your explanation is that you can't explain?
I can't tell you.
You can't tell me or you can't tell me.
I remember leaping after watching you sleep.
So you said.
The rest I am trying to remember. It's hard to remember what you don't want to remember, let alone explain. Can you let me in now? I've told you as much as I can.
I won't let you in.
But we agreed.
We did not agree.
I thought we agreed.
You see, this is why we needed to file our papers. If we had just put everything down...
I told you all I could. That's all I can do. It should be enough.
I'm afraid it isn't. Perhaps if we start over, if we retraced our steps.
I'm all for it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
How am I?
Have you had your coffee?
But you know I haven't had my coffee.
How would I know? I just woke up and you were already gone.
I'm not gone. I'm here in the hall.
Perhaps if you had your coffee, you'd feel better about me not letting you in.
But you must let me in.
Must I?
Yes.
Are you teaching today?
I don't know. What day is it?
You don't know what day it is?
Give me a moment. Let me think. Today is Tuesday.
That's right.
As I recall, I'm working on my own today. I no longer teach on Tuesdays.
Didn't you used to teach on Tuesdays?
I used to teach on Tuesdays, yes. On Tuesdays, I used to teach film theory, but not anymore.
So you're not teaching today. You're working on your own.
If I was teaching today, would you let me in?
I would not let you in, no.
Then why did you ask? Why did you want to know if I was teaching?
I was making conversation. I thought you might want to tell me. It's what people do when they're having a conversation.
But I don't want to have a conversation. I want you to let me in. Why am I here if you don't want to let me in? It's purgatorial. It's cruel. I've been stuck in the hall long enough. Ever since you locked the door. If you don't unlock the door, we're both stuck. I can't get in and you can't get out. You can't get where you need to be if you don't open the door.
I could take the fire escape down.
You could, I suppose, but that seems excessive. Why resort to extremes when you can simply open the door?
I'm pointing out the flaws in your thesis. You said I can't get to where I need to be if I don't let you in, and here I've presented an antithesis.
Yes, but hardly a synthesis. Hardly a viable solution. If you refuse to open the door, if you choose to go out the window, you won't have your keys, or your bag, or your case. You must have your case.
Yes, I must have my case, and my bag, and my keys. If I'm to leave, I must have everything I need. Looks like rain.
What's that?
Rain,
It looks like...
possibly so.
Are we discussing the weather now?
We are discussing the weather.
Do you want me to get your umbrella? Should you go out the window, you'll need your umbrella.
But I'm not going out the window just yet. I'll let you know if it starts to rain. If it starts to rain, I may need my umbrella. The morning papers are still across the street in their bundle.
The papers are? But where's Frank?
I don't know. I'm sure he's on his way.
Yes, I'm sure he's... But he's not there now. He's not there and it looks like rain.
It might rain, yes.
What do you imagine has happened to Frank?
I don't imagine anything has happened to Frank. If I were to imagine anything about Frank, it would be that he's still in bed with his wife or having coffee with a friend. Thank you.
just kept thinking about Robert Redford being the guy. Then I started thinking about Legal Eagles. It all made sense to me. Let's see. All right, so this is the last song. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else I have to say. I'm the Real Dan Menard. So if you're bored and you want to find me on social media, it's under that name. Instagram is good. And that's about it. This song is a song about what's happening right now, and it's called "At the End of the Day." Nowadays, everybody seems to have a problem just dealing with their issues and the way they want to solve them, but everyone seems to get excited when you take them away. Isolated, agitated, hiding in the ozone, just trying to gain some strength to build a little bit of backbone, but nothing that we do is that different at the end of the day. I'm not really sure I want to hear what you think, because I want to get a table with a glass and a drink, or I need to get an aspirin with some music or a movie to play. Being at my current job and wanting a raise, or trying to find another one just to see what it pays, but nothing that we do is that different at the end of the day. Breakdown. I'm busy walking down the street, I got my nose in my phone, and I never ask for help because I can do it alone, and you better mind your business. If you don't, then you got something to say. Cause all I want to do is find a way to get my medicine, and I don't want to hear about the shootings or the president, cause nothing that we do is that different at the end of the day. Like getting on a website and clicking a link, or trying to find a partner with a nod and a wink, or just a little conversation with somebody just to keep me awake. Being at my current job and wanting a raise, or trying to find another one just to see what it pays, but nothing that we do is that different at the end of the day. Breakdown number 2. Now there's lots of painful things to which I can relate, like two broke people going out on a date, and sometimes it's hard for me to just sit here and give it away. And they say what doesn't kill you probably make you stronger, but in my experience it just makes it all longer. Nothing that we do is that different at the end of the day. Like getting on a website and clicking a link, or trying to find a partner with a nod and a wink, or just a little conversation with somebody just to keep me awake. And being at my current job and wanting a raise, or trying to find another one just to see what it pays, but nothing that we do is that different at the end of the day. Nothing that we do is that different at the end of the day. Nothing that we do is that different at the end of the day. All right. Thank you, thank you. Thanks, Dan, for having us all. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks again, Dan. Thank you, Patrick and Ashley. That's why you actually get actors to do a read-through and not just two random people. So once again, thank you all for coming out tonight. Really appreciate the support of the arts and the program. I'd like to thank Green Brain Comics and Dan and Katie for allowing us to take over their store the third Monday of every month for the last hour, as well as staying open an additional hour. If you have any kind of interest in comics, you're going to find something in this store to buy, some games and things as well. But like I said, they've been closed for about 40 minutes, but I believe if you found something and wandered to the cash register, it might still be on. But a big thanks to them again for opening the store up to us, and for all the community support that they offer both here and down in Detroit. Thank you to the various artists who performed tonight. Greatly appreciate hearing your work, hearing your stories about your work, etc. Without you guys, this series doesn't exist. Similarly, if you're here tonight and you're not one of the 5 people that came up here, or 6 if you count me, that came up here and sat on one of these stools, thank you very much. because if it's just the 4 people and myself every month, it's not a very worthwhile series. For those that are new, the idea behind the series just kind of stemmed from something, about 10 years ago now, where I was going to see local bands play. I was going to readings. I was going to art galleries. And I would see the same 5 or 6 people at local bands playing. I'd see 5 different people at readings and galleries, and just kept thinking I cannot be the only person who's interested in all of the arts. And I just think it makes for a more entertaining evening to have everything interspersed. And hopefully you all feel the same. We do it the 3rd Monday of every month from 7 to 9. This was our 36th event over about 54 months, thanks to COVID. And like I said, we're booked for well over a year from now, so just feel free to mark it on your calendar through 2023 at a minimum. Thank you all very much. Looking forward to seeing you again at future events.